You know what the saddest thing I ever saw was? It wasn't a funeral. It wasn't a car crash. It was a man at a dinner table, surrounded by people who loved him, laughing at a joke that wasn't funny, agreeing with an opinion he didn't hold, ordering something he didn't want, because he'd spent 30 years learning to make himself smaller so other people could feel bigger. That man was me. I'm Ray. I'm 79 years old, and I want to talk to you today about the most dangerous thing you can do to yourself. Not the cigarettes, not the bad diet. The most dangerous thing you can do is disappear while you're still alive. I was a good husband, good father, good employee. You know how I know? Because nobody ever complained. And nobody ever complained because I never pushed back. I never said, "Actually, I disagree." I never said, "That's not what I want." I swallowed it. Every time. 41 years at the same company, 36 years in the same marriage, raised 2 kids, kept the peace. And somewhere around year 20-something, I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the man looking back at me. He was agreeable, quiet, reliable, and he was a stranger. Now you sitting there watching this, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've been keeping the peace so long, you forgot you were ever at war with anything. You make the plans other people want. You take the job that made sense on paper. You stay in the room when every cell in your body is screaming to walk out. And at night, you lay there with this hollow feeling you can't name, like something got left behind somewhere, and you can't remember where you put it. That's not depression. That's not ingratitude. That's you, the real you, knocking on the door of the life you built and wondering why nobody let him in. So here's what I want you to do. And this is going to sound wrong. Stop apologizing. Stop apologizing for changing. Stop apologizing for wanting something different at 50 than you wanted at 25. Stop apologizing for having an opinion, for taking up space, for being somebody. The people in your life who need you small, they are not your people. Love doesn't ask you to disappear. It never did. You just got confused somewhere. Now let me tell you why you keep doing it. Because I know. I did it too. You're scared. Not of them, of yourself. You're scared that if you start saying what you actually think, if you start asking for what you actually need, people are going to leave. And if they leave, you'll find out something you've been running from your whole life. That you were never really loved for who you are, only for who you pretended to be. That's a terrifying thing to find out. So you keep pretending, keep shrinking, keep the peace. Because the not knowing feels safer than the knowing. But listen to me. Living your whole life as someone else's version of you just to avoid that moment of truth. That ain't safety. That's a prison with no walls. Here's the hard truth. The people who truly love you can handle the real you. And the people who can't were never really yours to keep. So what do? Here's what I did. Step 1. Find one true thing. One opinion, one preference, one thing you actually want that you've been swallowing for years. Just one. Say it out loud, in private first if you have to. Say it to the mirror. I don't like that. I never did. I want to try something different. No, that doesn't work for me. It sounds so small, but let me tell you, the first time you say a true thing after years of silence, it shakes something loose in your chest that's been stuck for decades. Step 2. Stop rewriting history. You didn't sacrifice yourself because you were weak. You did it because you loved people, because you wanted peace, because you were doing the best you knew how. That's not a crime, but it's done now. Let it be done. You don't owe the past a single more day. Step 3. Let people be uncomfortable. This one's the hardest. When you start being real, when you start taking up your full space, some people are going to pull back. They're going to say you've changed. They're going to say you're being selfish. Let them. A man who fits in everywhere belongs nowhere. I'll tell you what happened when I finally stopped shrinking. I was 74 years old. My daughter called and wanted me to come to Thanksgiving. Her rules, her schedule. Do this, don't say that, just go along with it. And for the first time in my life, I said, "Baby, I love you, and I'm not doing it that way." Silence on the phone. Long silence. I thought that was it. She called back 2 days later. And you know what she said? She said, "Dad, I didn't know you felt that way." She said, "I didn't realize I was doing that." She said, "I'm sorry." 74 years old. First real conversation I ever had with my daughter. Because I finally showed up as myself. Now I have to be straight with you. Not every story ends like that. Some people in your life, they don't want the real you. They want the version that nods and stays quiet and never makes anything difficult. And if that's the case, if you show up as yourself and they leave, then what you've lost is the illusion of a relationship, not the relationship itself, because it was never really there. Grieve it if you have to, but don't go back underground for it. I spent 50 years making myself invisible so other people could feel seen. That ends when you decide it ends. Not when they give you permission. Not when the circumstances are right. Not when the kids are grown or the mortgage is paid or the timing is better. Now, you are not a supporting character in your own life. I know you forgot that somewhere, But I'm here to remind you, get up, be somebody. You always were.